Hello, my name is Kenji Martinez, and I'm a 3D environmental artist. Today I'll be showing you some of my works I have for my portfolio to better off show who I am as a 3D environment artist. Most if not all of these works here were from my game group project we had to create a game. My job in that was to create the background environment art. I'm the one who filled out the rooms, creating the objects like the bookshelves, the books, and any other decorated item that would fit inside a more fantasy/steampunk look. The first image I have is the grandfather clock. This is a reference image I have of my actual grandfather's grandfather clock. I wanted to keep that look, the more tall, lean look, but keep a low poly so it won't be as intrusive or as distracting to the viewer. On the left hand side is the low poly of the clock, and on the right side is the high poly. The difference we have here is because having a high poly look into a game engine will have the engine overwork. The game will end up running slower. Load times will be a lot slower. So by having the low poly one, the game engine will run easier, but will trick the system into thinking it looks like the high poly one by texturing it as a bake. And this is the final product. As you can see, the hour hand and the time is showing up even though we still have the high poly look. It'll be a flat image, but we're tricking the system and the viewer's eye into thinking there actually is a clock there to see, while keeping the engine low poly so the engine can run better. The telescope is the second object we had. As you can see from these reference images that I have, I wanted to keep a more steampunk look, but I didn't want to make it so obtuse like all the gear, so I went with a mix of the two. The left hand side is again the low poly and the right hand side is the high poly. We decided to have a more stationary look to give that almost fantasy element. Again, we wanted to keep it big, almost awe-inspiring to look like what can you see throughout those eyes. And this is the final product of it. We decided to go for a more metallic look, but almost kept it rough, so it won't be as distracting from the viewer as being reflective. We don't want it to be reflective. We wanted to keep it as a tool in the background, so we kept that rough look, but kept a little bit of shine to catch the viewer's eye. For my next piece, I have the sword. I wanted to decide on whether or not the sword was going to be a polished item to be displayed for all to see, or if it's going to be a more personal item, one that has seen battle maybe, have some rust, cuts, scruff, stuff like that. We came up with multiple designs, whether or not it's going to be a long sword, a claymore, a rapier, a curved sword. We also had to decide on whether or not it's going to be hanging off a wall, hanging up like vertically, horizontally, or if it's going to be in a display case sitting down longwise. We decided to go for a more short sword and the display stand. And this is more of the final product. As you can see, we decided to give it a little bit of scuff, a couple scratches, some dirt for both of them, to make it seem like it's been there for a while and is a very personal item that he maybe did not want to throw away. And for the final piece, we have the globe. We had to decide whether or not it's going to be a small globe or a big globe. Maybe one that's going to be used for everybody to see, a very grandiose one, or if it's going to be something on more of a researcher's desk. We had decided to go somewhere in the middle, not very too big, but not too small. We went for a more in the middle, one that's going to be about way high for a person's height. We decided to give it a more, kind of fit into the theme of the grandfather clock, giving it a more wood look to give it that almost fantasy look to keep it all tied together. And this was the final product. Like I said, we wanted to keep it all tied together to the library, so we gave it that fine wood look. But I also didn't want to make it just a flat sphere, just, something that wraps around just like any other sphere. I decided to give it more depth, to keep that water line separate from the land line, so it can almost feel like there's actually a more texture to it. But of course, we're making it as a bake, so it is not really there, it's just the illusion that it's there. I hope you really like all my stuff I have, and hopefully you can hire me for my presentations and for my portfolio. Thank you for your time.